All right, good. Happy Friday afternoon here, first week of December, ending up on a Friday. And we got our friend Townsend over here today going to talk about his entrepreneurial journey. Thanks for joining us today on the Swell Podcast. It is Friday afternoon, and so I think it's only fitting that we give some little happy hour toast to this. We've got Florida Cana 18 year from the best rum in the world, in my opinion. From Nicaragua. I just got back from Nicaragua this Tuesday.
Did you?
Yes. I was down there for a week, checking in on some things, visiting our call center, and we just got a new operator in for our hotel. So we're really excited about that.
I resisted very little to this idea of let's sample some product.
All right. So we're going to go a little Florida Cana on the rocks. This is my favorite way to drink it. I also sometimes drink it with a little just soda and lime. And then I also want to taste a friend of mine from high school, Brett Pittman, I recently reconnected with, and they've just launched Rincon Ron de Puerto Rico, silver rum. And it's already making big strides in Puerto Rico, and they're looking to launch it more here. Got a little bit of distribution here in Florida, and I believe up the East Coast. So we'll try that. A very different flavor from the dark rum. But rum is my drink of choice, so I'll let you give it a little go.
I like the clear rum for a good mojito.
No, definitely. The clear rum is definitely, mojito. Kind of think it goes good with a mixer. This is an aged rum. This is 18 years aged in bourbon barrels.
The classy plastic cups.
Oh yeah, sorry. We're at the office.
That's solid.
It's pretty smooth, huh?
Yeah.
Florida Cana is where it's at. It really is.
It's really good.
It's really good. I think I'll drink the rest of it.
I like the, I wasn't a big fan of the scent at first. I thought it was going to be harsher than it.
It's smooth, man.
Yeah.
It's smooth. It's not too sweet. It's very drinkable, like a scotch, or
Oh, that's
a bourbon.
fantastic. You don't even need ice with that.
I know, really don't. I like it a little chilled, typically because we're in Nicaragua. It's fairly hot. Here it's kind of a cool day here, so not too bad. Now on the flip side, let's sample some of Brett's silver rum. I think we got to go with no ice.
Straight off the top.
No ice.
12 drinks.
Let's just.
Makes the end of the podcast more fun.
Exactly. We're gonna get all the BS out of the way. Just enjoy. Let's see how Brett did with Rincon. Let's see.
You haven't had this before.
This is gonna be my first time tasting it.
I don't know why we swear. We swear with wine. I don't know if you do that with rum.
Ooh. Not bad though for a silver rum. Really smooth.
Very mild.
Typically silver rum gonna bite you a little bit, kind of like aguardiente, something like that. But it's quite good. I don't know, Florida Cana, Claro, they might need to step up their game. I think Rincon rum is coming after them pretty strongly. Well, I'm gonna follow up with. I'm gonna continue the party. If you're finished with these, I'll take it out of your way.
Take 'em. What are you doubling down on?
I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go with some Florida Cana. If you want some, I'll get you one. Or if you're down your beer.
You slipped me another drink.
You
when
got
I
your
was
beer over
looking,
there.
So once that empties out.
You got your beer. So I'm gonna continue on my 18 years. Sip on this while we're chatting. So we're here today because we're talking to Townsend about his entrepreneurial journey. He's had a successful exit of one company. Started up some other things. Been rolling around the country for a bit during COVID, right?
Yeah.
In your RV.
Yeah.
Gotten into, created his own podcast himself, YouTube channel, vlog, I guess you could say. How would you describe it?
So the Instagram page is what really kind of goes on the map.
Okay.
Podcast did well. So YouTube, we actually use more as for family videos and to just keep people apprised of what we're doing. So we kind of make almost family videos for each stop that we do. And we had over 180 stops in 3 years because, it's an understatement to say we traveled during COVID. We actually traveled nonstop from, I think, May of 2020 until what was that, December of 2022, so almost 3 straight years.
3 years.
And then even that, we still went to the Keys for 6 months. We weren't actually home. So yeah, it's been absolutely constant. Then we just got back from Central America as well.
Right, you're in Costa Rica, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a blast.
I'll have to hear more about that.
Yeah, it's going to take a turn. I don't think you're expecting.
Oh, I did expect it. Yeah, you got the bug probably. You got down there. You got the bug. No.
No,
The real estate bug didn't bite you when you were down
Nope.
there. No. Okay.
No.
Okay. All right. Good.
I was tempted for a little
Uh-huh.
bit. No, we had the embassy, unbeknownst to me, has raised it from a threat level 1 to a threat level 2 country. They're having more armed robberies.
Yeah.
We had a home invasion on day 3. Whole family, gunpoint for about an hour.
Holy crap.
Guys came in. We were in a compound too, and they cut the wires to the back fence. So they cut through and peeled it, I guess, before, and then just came up behind us and
Wow.
yeah, right after dinner.
Man.
Told you, take a turn you weren't expecting.
I wasn't. I mean, when I lived there, we had a home invasion.
Did you?
Yes, but it wasn't at gunpoint. They didn't take us at gunpoint.
Yeah.
I've had it happen to another friend down there though, but like, that's pretty surprising for Costa Rica.
No. Well, okay.
I
So
mean-
I would have thought so too, but apparently it's becoming.
Well, I mean,
This is
I'm
not
sure
a ringing endorsement for Costa Rica tourism, but I mean, they raised it to a threat level
you would
2.
never have a home invasion in Nicaragua. Never.
Is that true?
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure. I haven't heard of it. I mean, like, I'm telling you, the police force and the law is no joke in Nicaragua. You don't want to mess
Oh, that's
with
good.
that. No joke. I mean, you might not want to say things about other things, but, you know, it's no joke. The police and is no joke in Nicaragua. Well, so it was, and then now you're doing commercial real estate, right? That's your main thing right now?
Yeah.
That
That's a hard transition there.
Yes.
Yeah, so we're doing
Uh-huh.
commercial real estate. I still do 100% dad, and now that we're done traveling, we're gonna hopefully crank down more on that. There's a book I've wanted to put out for years now that hopefully I'll get out soon. So
Yeah.
that's kind of
So
we're
you're-
finally settling down back home
Uh-huh.
and getting into the groove of things.
Yeah, I mean, you're quite an entrepreneur. You started out, I mean, I don't know if you started out, but you had the Russell Coffee Services, right?
Yeah, so we had
Was that your first gig?
Yes.
Mhm.
So, well, first gig would have been mowing lawns when I was a kid. So that kind of started the whole entrepreneurial thing.
Uh-huh.
And that was something my dad just kind of made me do. I had to do something. My sister did babysitting, and I obviously wasn't going to babysit. I could barely take care of myself. But I was good at mowing lawns, and so did that, did well at it. And then we moved so much in my youth that I always had to shut down the business and start up a new one. So I kind of got used to starting things up. And so when it kind of came time to do my own thing, I was kind of used to it. It almost feels more normal to me to do that than to submit resumes and applications for a job.
Just create one. Just make a job.
Just do stuff.
Yeah.
Do stuff and get paid
Just
for
be
it.
just be productive, right?
Right. And now I guess now that as you get older, you have to be a little more technical into it and actually file for LLCs and pay those things called taxes and bookkeep properly. It was a little easier as a kid when you could just take your cash and
Right.
do the next loan.
The IRS probably wasn't coming after a 14-year-old.
No. I don't know what the statute of limitations is on that, but
It's run out.
Okay,
7 years.
good.
7 years right now.
yeah. So, but then, I was probably 24 when we started Russell Coffee Service, and that was coffee distribution. And then so we sold 3 companies at one time, so we kind of did them as a package deal. And that was Russell Coffee Service, and a few years later, we had started the Auburn Group, which was contracting business services. And then the last one was Florida Best Vending, which was doing the vending machines and micro markets at
Right.
corporate break rooms, which tied in well. They all tied in well with each other. That's why they could be.
And were they all under one company?
No, they were split up.
Three different entities.
Yeah, because one, and the reason I did that, one, a little bit of liability, but mostly because we contracted to our competitors. And so we wanted to make sure there was a clear, distinct separation. At the time, I felt that was important. Because we would get a big contract, like Ring Power was one of our marquee ones, a Caterpillar dealer, so they had 27 locations. We would subcontract to us the things locally we could touch, but the things in Tampa and Miami and out in Tallahassee, we would find the vendors for there and place them and receive a commission on those sales.
Gotcha.
And so it was a little bit easier to work as a fictitious third party
I see.
than to be, hey, I'm your direct competitor in a sense. Will you do this for me? Yeah, pay me for it. So there was a little bit of strategy there.
And so, and you built that company, if you don't mind sharing, I mean, up to, what was your gross revenue? If you look at the three companies under one umbrella, I mean, how big did you grow that?
Ooh, I didn't separate them. We were
not separate, but even together. I mean, where do you think
we were low seven figures.
Low seven
yeah,
figures.
So my thing, what I was never good at was scaling massively.
Uh-huh.
I liked being a regional, or would you call it regional? I liked being a local player. As long as I could control it, it was kind of in my wheelhouse. When we got too big, it just became harder for me. When you had a hand management off, I don't know that it was in my cards to go national, to go massive and huge. It's just, I don't know if it's in my skill set. I don't know if I'm good at hiring, or good enough at hiring for that, or just managing that many moving parts. But when I can actually get involved into something and fix an issue, that's where I excel. And so we always kind of aim to keep it small. And every few years we'd actually go through and we'd kind of cut off our bottom 20-30% of our business. So we take a look at our smallest accounts. We just sit there and say, they're kind of not worth it. We spend more time on it. If there's like one big issue there, then they're not going to be profitable at all. And so we actually trim them down. So we have less work to do, but more profitable work to do. And so we like to stay, I guess, more trim and lean is how you would
better margins.
Right. Which is kind of the opposite of how a lot of the world thinks. A lot of the world just says, let's get bigger, 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 bigger. And I was kind of like, let's just get more efficient. And from the family part of it, how can I spend more time at home?
Right.
How can I not have my weekends be running around putting down fires? And so that's kind of the strategy I took, and it led to a good home life, and it led to, when we did exit, we had a remarkably profitable company compared to our competitors, and so that gave us a much greater valuation.
That's good. And was that a difficult process?
No, I had gone through it a few years before, because we attempted to sell, or we were thinking about selling, and then we just decided not to. And so the second time around was kind of simple. We'd kind of reached out to the same players because we knew who would acquire us. So we kind of reached out to those competitors that we knew were able to, and it would be a cash deal, and we kind of laid out the terms, and there was a little bit of negotiating back and forth, but in the end we got what I thought was an incredible value. I think we ended up getting like 12 or 13 times EBITDA.
Wow.
Which I loved. Yeah.
I bet you did.
Yeah. But it was also a good value to them. So it's not like they were harmed, because one of the things they were able to do is, because they were they're a global player, but because they already had warehouses and things like that, they had no, how would you say that? Where we had operating costs that would just be absorbed into them.
They were just already had the same infrastructure. They were just absorbing. Basically, they're just buying the accounts and the revenue.
Yep. And I don't think they didn't say this per se, but it kind of became obvious. They were paying to get rid of me as well, because I was a pain in their tail, and so that helped. I also bridged.
Did they make you stay on for a little bit, or was it pretty much clean go?
3 months, and that was my doing. I wanted to be part of the transition, because I've heard horror stories of those kind of acquisitions happening, and then like the customer list just bails because they don't like the transition. It doesn't go smooth, and there's always a holdback on those, or at least for us, there was a holdback on the sale, and so we wanted to make sure we got full value on that. We didn't want everyone leaving, and then you lose, I think it was about 30% of the contract. And then what ended up happening is we did such a good job in that transition, and it was also right in the midst of COVID. So pre-COVID shutting everything down, so this would have been like late 2019, early 2020, I don't know if you remember, that's when all the panic buying was happening, and everyone was doing runs on toilet paper and meat and all these other things. Yeah. We were in so many factories and blue collar and distribution channels and all that the accounts we serviced, those things were skyrocketing. They were hiring in temp labor like crazy. So our numbers actually exploded.
Oh wow!
During the transition, so it ended up maxing out the contract. So there was a maximum value that could be applied. So we actually went above it. I think by something tiny, like $3,000 or $4,000. So we actually went above the max value of the contract. So it ended up working out perfectly. And then I think March 12th we signed and completed the transaction, and that's where we got the last 30%, which I think ended up being 40% or so. 3 days later, I think March 15th is when Florida shut down, and then just called halt to everything.
It was, yeah, about middle of March there.
Yeah. So it was, it
That
felt
was a lucky move, yeah.
Super lucky. It almost felt more hand of God. You couldn't have planned that or scheduled it or anything better.
Yeah.
And then, weren't necessarily harmed. They had a few rough weeks there where everyone was trying to figure things out.
Right.
But a lot of our business was core businesses. It was contractors and distribution and hospitals, things like that. So a lot of those kept ticking anyway. It's really the call centers in the U.S. and the office type accounts, which we weren't very heavy in. That probably took the biggest runs.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, those vital businesses, I mean, they stayed going. You know, we jumped on that bandwagon, you know, and produced a bunch of hand sanitizer, me and a buddy, and
Oh, I remember you telling me this
very,
story.
very timely, very lucky.
Yeah.
Hand of God. And I like sold a house on the day of the lockdown too for Florida, which I thought was really great. At the time I was like, oh yes, I got this house sold. Then I was like, oh no.
3 years later, you're like, man, should have kept that one.
That was a spec house I did. And then, so you sell that, that's great. I mean, what do you think? You said you had a hard time scaling, or it wasn't really your forte scaling. Do you think there's anything you could have done, or that you could, from that experience, if you were to do it again, or to tell somebody else, you know, to scale a business, what do you think it takes? Or, I mean, in your mind, it wasn't really worth it so much in what you were trying to do effectively, but...
And it's part of like what my training was.
You know, going back to the days when I was a kid doing loans, I always wanted to hire somebody, and like kids would see how much cash I had in school and be like, hey, can I come work for you? And I'd be like, yeah. And then I'd go home and tell my dad, and he'd be like, you don't want people working for you. Like, you do a really good job, they're not going to do as good a job with you, you're going to lose accounts, which is probably a bad thing. I would not tell my kids the same thing. And then my father-in-law, who was where I first worked for, and he was the same kind of mindset. So I've kind of learned under the umbrella of keep things in your control, it's almost narcissistic, I guess. If you can control it, you can, you know, you're in all the power. I never learned. I don't think I ever wanted to learn. So my advice to operators that are like-minded to me was, don't be afraid of staying small. Not everyone has to build Facebook. Not everyone has to build Google.
True.
You don't have to be a national company. And that means taking a lot of debt. And I was always a guy that was cash only. Like, stay away from debt. Which means you have to grow slower. Which means you can't hire as many people. You can't buy as many trucks. You can't expand your warehouses as fast. And so I've kind of been the guy that says it's okay not to be this huge big name and to be on the cover of magazines and to be one of the fastest growing companies. I just kind of ran opposite of everyone else. At the same time, customer service was so important to me that when we did grow faster, when we were putting a lot of attention into setting accounts and buying equipment, things like that, you know, it's not a hard correlation to make that your service was dropping because your priorities are on something else.
Right.
And when we weren't growing as fast, when we were much more manageable, you could really focus on taking care of your customers. And that's all I care about. I mean, one of my pride and joys was this can't be true. I don't think we ever lost a customer, certainly not to service. I can't remember a time where a competitor took me out, which is why we were a valuable acquisition, was because the guys around us could not take accounts from us. I mean, it's just, even if you came in with cheaper prices in a commodity business, which is coffee and vending, it just wasn't worth it to that HR rep or that purchasing rep because we gave them no headaches. If you called and said, hey, we have a problem with the machine or we have a problem with this or that, I mean, within an hour we were there and it was taken care of. And they never had to deal with that frustration or that headache. Versus other competitors, sometimes that's a continuing problem, sometimes that's a week or so we'll get it fixed, or next time the driver's out we'll get it fixed, and then it's a temporary fix and it didn't actually work.
Is that where you found like that extra customer service, that personal touch, that when you accounts, were you able to take accounts away from competitors?
100%. Now, so it was a harder sell when I was just going in there selling and it was completely cold, because then so many salespeople would just kind of BS around, and the salespeople always tell you what you want to hear. But if there was some sort of connection between them and another customer, and it was word of mouth, or there was a reputation that was validated, then it was easy. It's kind of taking candy from a baby scenario. What we grew probably best at was Sally was HR rep for XYZ company. She got a job somewhere else, and she was like, she assessed everything. Was like, hey, we need to call Townsend. They bring me in. And so it was other people making transitions.
So that customer service, that really good customer service, led to happy customers. It led to referrals, other business.
100%. That was like the core feature, and we kind of took that. Who was it? Nordstrom's approach of customer's always right. 100% of the time, the customer's right. If they think we did something wrong, they're right. Fix it. And so then we empowered our employees to, whatever you need to do to make them happy. If it costs us to make them happy, just make them happy. We'll deal with the effects afterwards. And if it's a customer that's a problem, and we had this a few times, where they're taking advantage of how nice we are and how much we'll take hits and absorb problems, then we'll just get rid of the customer. I'll sit there and say, hey, not a good fit. Not a good fit for us.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's something that all businesses have to evaluate, and it is. Sometimes it doesn't make sense. You're thinking you want to grab as much business as you can all the time. It is counterintuitive that sometimes sometimes you have to just say, hey, you know what, this is not a good fit, client, and it's a lose-lose situation. You're not happy. We're not happy. We're not making any money. You're not getting what you want. And sometimes it's better to cut it back. Or maybe they're even happy with it, but you as the business owner are going to take advantage of the situation. Or like you said, there's just not enough margin in that deal. It's not too much risk. And you have to know when to recognize that and to make those shifts. And those are tough decisions to make to walk away from income.
And
But sometimes realizing that income is more of a risk than it is.
Or it's just not as profitable as you think.
And that's where I was probably too good at constantly trimming off that bottom fat, which sometimes it was profitable. But then at the end of a decade, you look back and your entire roster of clients are very nice clients to have. Like you almost have that are like, we don't want to take care of them all that much.
Well, I mean, kudos to you that it worked out really well.
Yes.
And then you were able to get 12. You said 12 times EBITDA.
I think it ended up being 12 or 13, something around there.
That's phenomenal for a service-based business.
Yeah.
That's unheard of.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was fantastic. That's where I was like,
that's a huge
the
success.
time is now. And the other issue there with is we were facing a situation where our warehouse was full, our trucks were full, our route was full, our staffing was full. It was more than I could manage. And so the next step in the business was bigger warehouse, another truck or two. That means more employees, and there's going to be a level of management we had to bring in. So we had to bring in someone to replace me as being hands-on management. And just, you could see real quick, and because you do that, then you have to get more accounts because you have to be able to justify all these salaries and these new costs and these new rents. And so that was going to be hired a salesperson because you got to continue that growth. And so we were kind of at this bubbling point of like, we either needed to do some rapid expansion and probably put in $500,000 to $1 million to buy equipment and to hire new people on and to expand our operations. And do we want to cash out now for a really good value, or do we want to really kind of hunker down on cash for a bit and ride out these next 3 years and not necessarily cross your fingers and hope for the best, but really have to work at it.
Yeah.
And being a family guy, I obviously care a lot about being a father, so I started 100% dad. With the kids' ages, I think at that point we're 3, 6, and 9. I was like, do we just want to go travel? Do we want to go spend time as a family and just really connect deep and go do stuff? Or for the next 3 years, and now my kids will be 6, 12, and 15. Do I want to be really heads down in the business and having to push this thing?
Yeah, I mean, that's a big decision. I can say that, like, I have 4 kids. I have 2 that are older now in college and 2 that are in middle school. And, although we're all the same family, same mom, same dad, we always, the same group of people. But the experience for those kids, these 2 oldest kids, and the experience for the younger 2 is quite different. Because different stages of my life and how hard I was working and traveling and doing other things. So, I think it's really special that you got to make that decision, take the time for the kids, the 3 years together you had traveling, and what an amazing opportunity to really actually connect and really know them deeply.
Yeah,
and that's huge.
And I don't regret it one bit.
I mean,
at the same time, we left a lot of money on the table by not staying in the business or not reinvesting. And as an entrepreneur, because if you're the same mindset I am, like, you just want to constantly be building something and investing in something.
It's not even about the money all the time. It's about the investing in the building.
Yeah.
Half the time, it's just about the making, the productivity, the doing.
Genuinely,
money is like a secondary outcome of the whole thing.
Yeah, well, it's the measuring stick.
Yeah.
It's how you quantify wins and losses. And I like to win. Oh gosh, I forgot where I was going to go with that. Then you distracted me with fancy words.
Sorry.
It'll come back to me.
Well, anyway, it's a great story. I mean, leaving money on the table, I think that's unfortunate, but as we all know, I mean, and as a dad and as a family person as well.
It's unfortunate as a business owner, but I wouldn't change it one bit. Now, in retrospect,
So some of when we left, there was a shutdown, and because we were moving so much, and I didn't have my thumb on the pulse of the economy. I didn't realize everyone was getting paid what they were getting paid. I didn't realize. I thought everyone was going unemployment, and they were going to be struggling. I didn't realize everyone was going unemployment, and checks were coming in, and they were making more than they were making. So I didn't see all that coming in, because back then, I don't know if you remember, the headlines were, Europe and Sweden, like all these other countries.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, Europe's not a country, but all these other countries were giving these monthly dividends to people while they were being laid off, and America didn't. All we did was we did that one like $1,500 cost, and so I kind of just saw the headline level stuff. I didn't realize, we only did that, but our unemployment's really picking up the slack on everything. Plus, we had that COVID bonus, so I really how do you say that? Misread or mismeasured what was going on.
Well, I think in the beginning too. I mean, my first reaction, because living through the global financial crisis in 08, 09.
Yeah, right.
Which
is when I started my career.
Right.
I've been waiting for that to happen again.
Right. And at that time, I was in real estate deep, and it was a difficult time. And so having that as part of my entrepreneurial journey is living through that global financial crisis. My first knee-jerk reaction as well is when all that stuff's happening with COVID is, oh crap, everything's about to just go. I mean, the whole economy's about to just take a dump, and I got to figure something out, because who knows if my business is going to be here tomorrow.
And in reality, it should have. It got propped up. It was artificially propped up. In reality, it absolutely should have tanked.
I mean, the only reason we survived was, one, because I pivoted and made $4 million of hand sanitizer overnight. Two, because we got EIDL loans, PPP money, all kinds of free
I don't even know what the EIDL is. What was that?
That was a special loan that was given by the Emergency Disaster Relief Loan by the SBA. So there was that money, PPP.
Yeah, PPP.
And so I literally just told my controller, I was like, your job is now not to worry about accounts receivable, account payable. It's all about how much money can you get from this COVID relief.
Yeah.
And make sure that we are applying for every bit of everything we can get.
Yeah.
So, and it did, we reinvested every dime into the business, expanding the business and growing the business, and we would not have actually accelerated and grown during that period if it weren't for those opportunities. And then you had the employee retention credit also, that you got money for every person you kept on, and we kept all our people on. So then we got compensated for that. So, and now I think we are seeing...
There's only one way to say it. This was a huge government bailout, both of individuals and businesses. Huge. And now we're feeling, obviously now we're feeling the pressure from all that. The inflation.
Yes, the inflation, the backlash, and a lot of businesses, I'll tell you right now, the fourth quarter from our business and all the interaction we have in our B2B type of business we do, I think, there's a lot of businesses struggling right now and looking...
Are they?
I think, yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Looking for...
Starting to tick down in sales?
Yes, sales, I think, and maybe not to consumers yet, but in between business to business, I think a lot of business, there's been quite a bit of contraction. There's been, a lot of fat being cut. All that free money has run out, and now, businesses are starting to trim and think, how do I be more efficient? How do I make sure that we stay profitable? And I think it's definitely a concern, and we'll see what happens in the next year. I mean,
which I'm of the operator mindset. I'm all in favor of that stuff. I know you're on the marketing side of things, so sometimes that's the side that gets cut.
But I'm also an opportunist, and so there's always opportunities that come out of any situation, either with an upswing or a downswing, right? It's just knowing how to move and play the game. Well, so great success. You get out of that business. How long did it take you to grow that business from the time you started to the exit?
October 2011 is when we started, and we sold in November of 2019. So about almost a decade. 8 years, 9 years.
That's solid, man. That's solid to be able to grow business and exit in 10 years. That's super solid. And I think that most entrepreneurs, the vast majority of entrepreneurs, that's the goal, right? Let's start a business, grow it, and sell it.
So it was never my goal.
Well, I know, but I mean, at some point you've been doing it for 10 years.
Sure.
I'd like to spend more time with my family.
Oh, so that's what I was going to say earlier. So I actually we were talking about we like the journey and things like that. I actually get bored when the business is doing well.
Yeah.
When the business has no trouble, when it has no fires, when it's not like in those early year stages where it sucks and it's just like it's painful and you don't have enough accounts and you don't have enough money coming in and you're having to fund the thing. In retrospect, I enjoy those times. I enjoy when it's painful and when it's hard to grow, And then when everything's kind of coasting and it's profitable, that's where I'm like,
I think
I don't wanna
that's
do
the
this
true
anymore.
entrepreneur in you. And like, I don't know, I was just recently been listening to Elon Musk's new biography.
I didn't even know he had one.
Yes.
That'd be a fun one to read.
Man, you gotta read
Is
it.
it audio only or is it?
Well, it's both. I've been listening to it as I travel and work out and everything. It's like I think the audiobook is like nearly 30 hours or something. So
Is it a good whoever is voicing it? Are
yes.
they good at it? Okay.
Yeah, yes, the author. And so
Not Elon.
no, it's not an autobiography, it's a biography. So, but it's really good, and he has that same kind of mentality that every time that it seems like things are going good, then he ends up jumping into something else or creating something because he likes that pressure cooker
Yes.
syndrome,
I am not at his level.
No, neither am I. But it's really cool to listen to
Sure.
or read.
So I always hated Elon Musk. Like I
Uh-huh.
never liked any of the businesses he did. I thought he relied too much on government,
Uh-huh.
subsidies and things like that. And it wasn't until we were in the RV and like to say, internet while you're traveling all the time is the biggest struggle. And all those different SIM cards and routers, I had them all, and they were all terrible. And so we finally jumped
Starlink.
on, and that thing was a game changer.
Yeah, it's legit.
It was so fast and so easy, and I'm like, all right, maybe I'll buy a Tesla now.
I haven't quite
I'm
drank
all
that
on
Kool-Aid
board.
yet, but I'm all in the Starlink.
And my brother-in-law and sister-in-law, they have a Tesla, and they
Yeah.
love the thing.
They love
'Cause
it. I
They
hate
they come from Tampa to St. Augustine all the time, so it basically
Self-driving.
drives for them. And
Uh-huh.
although they do have to stop, somewhere
Yeah.
around the halfway point and recharge, and they just go get lunch and hang out for a bit.
Uh-huh.
But yeah.
It seems to be the way of the future. We'll see. We'll see if the electric grid can produce enough electricity.
Tesla. Yeah, I've heard the big three are not doing well with their electric, and they're wanting to not cease operations, but not push it as hard as they're being told to push. Maybe.
Yeah, I'm sure it's difficult to make that changeover. So you sell the company, and then you go on to your travel for 3 years, and
Yep.
you decide to do 100% dad.
Yep.
I mean, did that happen? Did your decision to do that happen prior to the sale of the business or after? I mean, what motivated you to do that other than you really love being a dad and you want to be with your kids? But I mean, what was the real motivating factor?
So 100% that happened about 5 years before that. So
Okay.
I don't think we created till about a year before we sold. I'm trying to think. I haven't told this story in a little bit now. All right, so I think I was about 26 or so. I had my second kid, and I was 29. So I was having these dreams that I would die. I was always I was driving a car, and we have a farm in West Virginia, and I would always go off the cliff. And I just couldn't control around the turn it would go. And I was telling my wife about that. They were all repetitive, and we were always diving off a cliff in the vehicle. And she just said it's because I didn't have control on things. She's like, this is just your mind
Subconscious.
telling you that you feel like you don't have control because the business was in its infancy. And so what I ended up doing from there was I created this binder of if I died. So if I died before I'm 30, Ryan was on our second kid, so she wasn't involved in the business, and I was a key person, like at all levels. And so I created a binder that Ryan could read it and basically take over the business the day I died. And so I had letters to all of our employees of like, from the grave of, hey, this is your role, I'm counting on you, this is what I need you to do. We had letters to our customers, we had letters to our vendors, and I told Ryan, who to call day one, what to say, because it was very easy at that point in a service-based business of, hey, Townsend's dead, Townsend's the key person, all right, call so-and-so company, we're going to need our coffee and vending products. Until it'd be easy for everyone to bail, and that was, at that time, probably 90% of our net worth. And so that would have been a very bad thing. So I wanted to put it on paper for Ryan what to do, how to operate day to day, week to week, quarter to quarter, year to year, and then at the same time how to sell it if she needed to, or how to hire a manager and make sure that manager does what I've been doing. And so by the time I got finished with that thing, it was like 3-inch thick binder, and it kind of reshaped how I thought about the business because I never really had to dig in at that level of detail before. It was always kind of on instinct. And so that helped me kind of reposition our business in a great way to where I wasn't the key person anymore. I wasn't the final authority on every single issue. And so it kind of made it more of a business that operates on its own versus...
And that's imperative for an exit.
Yeah. And that was a very key piece. And so that became such a good tool for me, and it would have been a great tool if I had died. It would have been very effective. But then I realized I replaced Townsend, the business owner, so well. Like, I have 2 kids now, so can I replace Townsend, the dad, the same way? Because if I die, it's not just about the business and the financial health of my family. You know, I didn't want my kids growing up and all the grandparents and aunts and uncles saying, "Hey, your dad would have wanted this, your dad would have wanted that," and people speaking for me.
Right.
Because no one actually knows what I think or what I would have done or what I would have thought of things. So I started making notes for the kids about, you know, how I felt on different subjects. And then partway through that, I'm like, oh, this would be such a cool parenting book. So I kind of started changing all the verbiage from, you know, talking to my kids to, you know, a parent talking to their child, and so it would be a good book. And so I finished that. It took me a little bit. And then I tried to read it, and I fell asleep every time I tried to read it. It was like the worst book in the world, just boring. And so I shelved it. And so that became the foundation for 100% Dad. So 5 years later, we were looking at the sale. I wanted to start putting out some content related to that. So I just dusted all those old writings off, and that's what made Instagram grow. Because I could take one-liners out of that book, and I could create a meme about it, and then I would put it out on the internet, and they did well. And so that's really the foundation of 100% Dad. And since then, I've rewritten all that content in a way that would actually make a good book, and hopefully we'll be releasing that book soon.
And is it going to be called 100% Dad, or what's going to be?
No, the title of that book's going to be Good Dad to Great Dad.
Good Dad to Great
Take
Dad.
your dad skills to the next level. And so the whole foundation of that is basically what I did for the business and as a father, of start documenting this stuff and then create a legacy in written form. And because not only does it help you, like with the business, not only does it help your family if you're actually gone, and helps your kids know what your value systems are and how to operate, but it helps you. It clarifies the entire subject for you. Because I think for a lot of fathers, because I've talked to them, there's a lot of subject matter they just don't think about. They kind of have instincts on, but they don't really put the necessary thought into it. And if you put that thought into it, sometimes it changes your answer. Sometimes, and this is what's happening with dads, is they'll answer their kids in a way, or they'll respond to a scenario in a certain way, and then a week or a year or two later, they're like, was that the right answer? And so if you can just get ahead of those curves, it makes you a much better father, much better husband, and if it's in a business scenario, much better business operator.
Yeah, so true. Yeah, it's tough, man. There's a lot of pressure. A lot of pressure on being a dad, being a husband, being a business owner. It's a lot to juggle.
There is, but so I don't know about you, but I find if you keep it to like a couple core things, like just a few general guidelines, it's a lot. Makes it a lot simpler. So when you get into the details and the nitty gritty of it, it can get very complicated and very gray. But like if you kind of know where you're going, what your value systems are, like for the business, at least our business, it was like customer service prioritizes over everything. Like employees, don't make any decision based off of money. We'll figure out money later. Like we'll make a few decisions at a loss, but like keep the customers happy. Because if we're really profitable on that sale, but we lose a customer, it means squat. But if we lose money, but we keep the customer, that's a big deal.
And I think that's been paramount in my business too. And we've been in business since 2009, and there's been many a times to keep a customer that I gave them, okay, fine, you don't have to pay that. It's a dispute. Don't worry about it. We're gonna make it better. We're gonna do it better. And the lifetime value of those customers has really paid off.
Right.
Like the baseline still today of our revenue is from customers that we've had for many, 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 many years.
Yeah.
Obviously, sales and finding new customers is extremely important because you got to keep growing. But having that baseline of good customers for a long time, the lifetime value of the customer is extremely important.
And you know where that really helps is when you actually make like a really big boo-boo. Like where you really screw up and it was definitely your fault and it wasn't questionable. And yeah, you get some credit on there because you've taken care of on other issues that were maybe more suspect.
Yeah.
So, but now I've never run the massive businesses, and so I don't know the scale. But we've seen retail do that, but I don't know the scale of if you take that philosophy on a big level, does that really impact you? But Walmart did that. Walmart changed the game of retail. Where this is going back years now, but returns used to be a difficult thing.
Right, but Walmart never questioned returns.
So I don't know if they never did it, but
Well, at some point, they pretty much made it very easy.
they made the change. They were definitely the leader, and hey, well, whatever. We don't get. Obviously, you took advantage of us in this scenario, and whatever. Here's your money back.
And that crap kind of rolls downhill to the vendors, you know. But
Yeah.
but I mean, Walmart is about volume.
But it changed retail. So
Yeah.
every retailer then had to kind of change their
Follow
return
suit,
policies. And I've been in like Lowe's and Home Depot return lines where people are returning things, and you just hear that, like, hey, I bought this wheelbarrow on Friday, and it's Monday, and I'm returning it. It's really dirty, but it's just not what I wanted. Like, okay, free rental, I guess.
Yeah, that's
But
taking advantage.
now I've noticed, at least in those home improvement worlds, they take the driver's license of the personnel, so they at least can capture maybe multiple abuses from the same person, where it's clear and obvious. But yeah,
Well,
so that was me saying, at a small level, I could totally keep my hand on that and control it. At a huge national level, I don't know that I'd be that skilled in it.
well, I think important though when you're scaling a business is obviously one, like you said, you got to remove yourself from being the sole person of knowledge and all the information in the business, right?
Right.
So you got to have standard operating procedures. You got to have everything documented. You got to make that book, if I die book, basically.
Yeah.
Right, so that the knowledge is disseminated.
Well, and not only in that, empower the lower level employees to to think for themselves and make judgment calls, and then we can correct that after the fact.
Right.
And it's okay if they make wrong decisions in the beginning, like, you kind of got took on that one, all right? That was not the right call. But you kind of, and that's where keeping employees probably is a key thing of, when you have an experienced employee that's gone through those ups and downs and has made mistakes, they are so much more valuable than a new employee.
Oh yeah, 100%. And that's hopefully why they get raises and get paid more. Because they've had more value, right?
So I'm
Not
having
just
this
because.
conversation with my brother-in-law right now of like, dude, pay your people more.
Yeah.
Like, you can get away with this. You can get away with it. Like, that's why you have this high frequency turnover.
Right.
Like,
Turnover is more expensive in the long run.
Because I was paying my lowest level employees like 30% more 5 years ago than he's paying his now. And I'm like, and you're complaining about how much work you have to do and how much problem you're having with employees. I'm like, reward the good ones. Reward them. Give them raises. Give them more money. I used to go around, I forget who gave me this idea, but just randomly $100 bills. Like, keep $100 bills on hand. And like, we were a cash business, so I always had a safe filled with cash. So I'd make sure there were plenty of $100 bills and just reward people. Like, hey, that was awesome. Here's $100.
Well, I say in our call center operation, we found that works really well.
I bet.
And so
Because call centers have super high turnover. I don't know
Super
about
high
Nicaragua,
turnover.
but America.
Well, even in Nicaragua, we get a lot of turnover, and so we tape dollar bills to the walls and let people earn them or get them, and we have lots of fun parties and fun things to do and make it a game and make it rewarding. But I think it's good. You got to reward people. You got to pay people as long as they're adding value, right? You can't reward people for doing nothing.
Sure.
But as long as they're adding value, I think that there's really three things that are key in scaling a business. Is one is being able to, if you died, scenario, all the information is disseminated across the business, so you're not the only sole keeper of all the information. Two, I think it's hiring good management and allowing them to empowering them to do their job, not micromanaging them, allowing them to fill into that role even when they make mistakes, knowing that you're going to lose a little money along the way, but in the long term you're going to make more. And then really the third is really treating your employees really well and making sure that they have an opportunity to go out there and make something and make more money.
Yeah.
So I think I think you did that in your business. It sounds like.
Well, and then management was probably my weakest point there.
Because there never got to a point to where I created that many levels of like, this manager has full control over this jurisdiction. We would bring on a manager that was like a sub me, but it never got beyond that. It never got to, we have a manager for the drivers, a manager for, sales, a manager for accounting or anything like that. And honestly, that kind of scared me to have that many levels and to lose control of it. Because I guess I might be more narcissistic in that level of I need control. I need to know what's going on. I need to be able to dial down to the exact issue versus look at it from a spreadsheet level.
Well, regardless, you led it to a successful exit.
Yeah.
That's a huge win.
Yep.
You got to start 100% dad.
Yeah.
something you're passionate about.
I'm not complaining about it. I'm just saying.
Spend 3
I might
years
not be the
traveling with
best
your
at it.
family,
Yeah.
RVing around the whole world. That taught you a lot about RVs. That then I think led you to now what you're doing. You started your RV park,
Yep.
and that led you into getting really interested into commercial real estate, right?
So I've always been interested in commercial real
Okay.
estate. I just never had the license.
Okay.
So that's something I always, and what drove me nuts about commercial real estate is even when I was like 23, 24, I was working for my father-in-law at that point. So I would have been like 21, 22. I would make calls on like all those roadside signs you see, like all these big acres on like US 1 and things like that, especially by the airport, because I thought those were great values. This is specific to St. Augustine.
If you could have
obviously.
just bought that then. Now you're we're all looking back.
I
and made a lot of-
never
you should have
got
bought it all.
calls back.
Oh really?
All those big real estate signs, the commercial real estate ones. Now, if houses, the residential agents tend to be more responsive. But I almost never got calls back. And I was just talking about this with the broker the other day. There are some things I was trying to buy in Hastings, which is an outlier of St. Augustine, right before we left. And it was a couple warehouses and some buildings in Hastings, like the metro area, the main street.
Yeah, so Metro Hastings.
Yeah, it's like a small town, but like that core little segment
No,
of
you're
it,
saying
not the farm.
The four corners of Hastings.
So metro would be probably a bad word for
Downtown
it.
Hastings.
It's a farm town
Right.
with like a little downtown, like
Right.
an old school small town
Right.
downtown corridor. But they had some warehouses and big buildings for sale there, and I never got. I would call like 3, 4, 5 times and never even get a response. And then we were leaving, so I just never even thought about it. And you know who ended up buying those buildings? The broker I work for now.
Oh really?
Jenna Dennis, we were talking about it. She was
Inside
telling me about
deal.
all the stuff she's doing in Hastings. I'm like, man, I tried to buy a few buildings. It was like this building. She's like, I bought them. I'm like, how the hell? She's like, I had to go really deep into that. I think she had to contact the owners directly because the agents just weren't. I don't know why they're not responsive in commercial real estate, but it's always driven me nuts. So that's always been. I've always kind of been in that world because even as a business operator, I'm always looking at warehouses, things like that.
And so is that what you're focusing on on commercial? You're focusing on warehouse, industrial,
That's what I like most.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and land that can be developed.
land, land for development, single family,
Yeah,
multifamily.
so if I have to put it in order, it goes
Uh-huh.
commercial, land, residential. But
Okay.
and that commercial obviously can apply a lot, but I like industrial, light industrial, and then multifamily.
Mhm.
But certainly redevelopment that's where so much value, in my opinion, is.
Yeah, and here we're seeing it now in this county. I mean, it's going crazy in St. Johns County. It's absolutely insane.
And there's so you say crazy because it's fast,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time it's not crazy because they're not developing and then sitting vacant.
Right,
They are selling.
right.
So it's
Oh, we're just so behind the 8 ball with the amount of people moving into the county.
yeah, and I don't know what the issue was 10, 15 years ago. I don't know if they weren't allowing 3-story apartments or or if it was just too expensive.
There
with
wasn't the
impact fees.
volume of tenants. So I just think that there weren't the people here to really move into those buildings.
I have a hard time believing because we had Nocatee going, we had Palencia, we had these massive
Mhm.
developments going with it. There's thousands of them, 1,000 plus acres.
Well, I think it's twofold. One, county commissioners, the people that ran the county, didn't want those type of buildings here. They didn't want those type of tenants,
I can
right?
see that.
They wanted to push those people to Jacksonville. They wanted to, really, that was like, okay, well, here's the core, the jobs. It really has to do with jobs, right? And jobs that can pay. And still, we have that problem here in St. Johns County.
Right.
We do not have jobs that pay enough for people to afford to live here.
Well,
Yeah.
we have the jobs. It's just you can't rent for a cheap price around here.
Right, there's nothing affordable. It has to do probably with the amount of available units, so demand is high because there's no vacancies.
Mhm.
And, there's demand is high, there's no vacancies, so the price goes up.
Right.
So, yeah.
And we should put out this disclaimer: St. Johns County, Florida, is a terrible place to live.
Do not move here. You won't find a place to live. There's no jobs.
And if you own
And-
property here,
yeah.
just sell it, get rid of it.
Exactly.
It's
For a cheap
terrible
rate to
town.
people that already live here. But, well, man, it's a great success story. I think that a lot of entrepreneurs would like to follow that same journey, I'm sure. A lot of people's goals. Like you said, there's some people's goals that want to be in the Forbes 100, that want to be on the face of the magazine, that aspire to be Elon Musk or Bill Gates or whatever. There's others that just want to live a really good life. and want the freedom of that entrepreneurship brings to your life. But we also know that entrepreneurship is also a curse in a way, because you better be willing to work really freaking hard. I mean, harder than you've ever worked before to succeed.
Somebody
take a lot of risk, and
somebody
you
told
want
me
to fail.
once being an entrepreneur is like riding a roller coaster, and you have like your super high highs and your super low lows.
Mm-hmm.
It's 1,000 times a day each direction.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, yeah, that's probably a great way to like.
While
You think you're
you're
about
playing-
to lose everything, and you're super excited.
Yeah.
Like
So
100
a
times
roller
day.
coaster while you're playing the most high stakes poker game that you could ever play.
Yeah. Now you can mitigate those risks and try not to be. That was my theory of because I got in trouble with debt when I first started. There was a banker, a local banker who's still around here, gave me some of the worst advice in the world, and that was do credit cards. And he told me how businesses get started is they do lots of credit cards with super high interest, because they wouldn't give me a loan for a contract. I was getting Baptist Hospital, and I needed like $100,000 to buy the equipment. And he was like, we're not going to do that because you're too new of a business. But you get a whole bunch of credit cards, piece them together, pay that 25%. That's what all successful businesses do. It's just the cost of doing business. And so I followed his advice, and it led me to just a complete crash. And that's when I kind of steered 100% away from debt. And I was like, forget it. We're never getting in that situation again. And so again, this is opposite to most people.
Right.
There's probably a more efficient way to do it.
But
yeah, so if you're getting that advice from somebody, don't sign up for 30 credit cards at 25%.
Well, I've seen there's this guy on Instagram that's like the king of debt or something, and tries to tell people how to do that. And I can say that like
how to balance the 0 to zeros.
Yeah.
So one of those guys is the RV. His content person who edits his videos. Apparently, he's got a few million followers. But we met on the RV circuit because we had a big branded RV, so people would come talk to me. He's like, "Yeah, I do all the editing for this guy," and but he does that whole credit card shift and how to get like maximum value out of your credit cards, and same thing, never pay interest and bounce it. And I guess that works certainly over the last 15 years as the economy's been on fire.
Right, with interest that's very low, and that's opportunity.
And where it's competitive, and they go 0%.
Sure.
And second that doesn't exist.
Yeah, it'll change. I mean, it's like everything. I mean, I can say that I was pretty heavily leveraged, in the 08 time period, doing a lot of real estate, and it was hard to unwind out of that. Luckily, we didn't have to declare bankruptcy or anything, but it was painful. It was painful.
Yeah.
We had to go through a couple painful years of trying to unwind from it. I think there's a good balance. If you can pull it off with no debt, hey man, that's great. But like you said, to scale and build a business is difficult. It's difficult, and I think it's all about building a successful business and then finding the right banking relationships, the right types of debt.
Now, how did you find getting? So that's something I never said. We had a good bank, but we just never borrowed from them. So we had a good relationship where we kept healthy cash balances, and that was to their benefit. Maybe it's a small amount of interest, but we never borrowed after my early 20s. So I guess how long did your business have to be established before you could pull that off?
Oh, I'd say 5-6 years.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And initially it was with credit cards, but we never like used credit cards to like pay for pure PayPal, kind of switch credit cards. But
so you're smart with it.
Yeah, try to be smart with it, because I actually got into this particular business. We started in 09, like after like all that kind of stuff that kind of happened in the midst of it all, and we had luckily like most of my my first businesses that I owned were in Central America, where consumer debt is just not available. So there's just not a lot of debt available, and mostly leverage is difficult. Even in real estate, there's not a ton of leverage. It's low leverage, 50%. It's just not. You're not at 90%. There's no 100% leverage. There's no $0 down loans. There's no teaser
And that's
rates.
on the consumer side as well.
Consumer and commercial.
For home mortgages.
Home mortgage is like 50%. If you're lucky. So and it's very difficult to get. So most of it.
But I wonder if that's a good thing.
Well, no, it makes it stagnant and it's hard for growth, definitely. But it's very conservative on the banking side for various reasons, for legal reasons, and the ability to collect on debt. The society there is not as transparent.
Okay.
It's not as transparent as here. They don't have Equifax credit union, Equifax and TransUnion and these credit bureaus don't really exist, the same way.
That's fair.
They don't have the same structure, and they're very small economies, so They're just more conservative in that way. That was good in a way, but we had some rental properties here and stuff, and that went upside down during that crash. So that was difficult, but it takes a long time to build good credit, and then it's just about finding the right relationships, over time.
Sure.
And
I've heard other businesses, or other business operators talk about their relationships with their banks and, and how important, because they always reference one guy.
Yes, you got to find a good regional or local bank. Unfortunately,
Geez, those are disappearing around here.
Yeah, they're around, but you got to do. You have to do business with the big ones, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, et cetera, because just for the ease of making. When you start to run a larger business, and you're,
Wells Fargo and Bank of America, shit, I hate you.
You'll have to pay to play. But it's just for processing payments and getting things done. It's a little bit easier.
All the St. Augustine local ones got bought out, or they merged, and First Atlantic was a great bank. They were phenomenal, and then they got absorbed by somebody in Alabama, and then they got absorbed by somebody else somewhere in Georgia, and then Reunion. They became part of that. Then they went to Center State, and now Center State became part of South State, and now they're trash. I still bank with them, and they're still trash.
Barwick is the new.
They're not around anymore.
Barwick is the new local bank.
Barwick became Bank of America 30 years ago.
No, Barwick is a local
I'm thinking
bank.
Barnett.
Barnett, yeah.
Okay.
And my dad was with Barnett, but Barwick is the new local little bank.
Barnett used to be great.
That was the same guys from Reunion, so they're
really
they're back. And
they're getting a new customer soon.
Yeah, great relationship banking.
Okay.
But it's important to have those banks. So I would say, if you're not a small entrepreneur and you're getting started, try to find those local banking relationships. And there's a lot of great programs with the SBA. Tremendous programs actually with the SBA. Like if you were starting out your business and you needed equipment purchasing, all this
I've
stuff.
never tried. I've only heard it's a long process.
It's not as hard as you think.
Really?
Yes. If you're bankable, you have good credit, and your business has some history.
Right. So the business has to be established for a while.
Yep. Or if you're purchasing a business that is established. Yep. Yeah, SBA has some great programs out there.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, really good programs. Yes, you have to do some work. Do they require that you do paperwork and know what you're doing and have some financials and
paperwork?
Yeah, they require paperwork, but it's a good option. So, what do you think is if you had to pick one thing that you were going to tell either an existing business owner or someone who is looking to get into business? What is the one thing that you can say that you would say would be the path to success? If you had to pick one thing.
Well, I hate the fact that people try and boil everything down to one.
Sorry to put you on the spot. Just one thing. What's the one thing that you would? What's the one?
thing you
would suggest.
Our motto, for us, which I've already said here, is the customer experience, customer service, is second to none. You take care of your customers at an unprecedented level, at an unhealthy level, they'll stick around for you.
Okay.
And that, beyond anything, has been most important to me. And that's resulted in friendships. That's resulted in more and more business as people expand in different directions. Yeah. And you take care of people, they'll pay you back. So it might take some time.
Right.
But they won't cut you loose the first time you screw something up. In the long term, you get rewarded. At least for me, it was big time.
Well, that's great, man.
Yeah. To the point where I almost felt a little guilty about selling. But that's why I stuck around and made sure the transition went smooth. So.
Yeah, in 3 months in the grand scheme of things, that's a short transition. Sometimes you stay on for a year or so or more in some businesses. But
well, we had a business where you pretty much saw your customer every 2 weeks.
Sometimes it was a week. Some customers were 3 times a week. But that made sure that everyone was getting touched a few times during the transition. And I wanted to be actively involved in that, where I could go sit and have a desk conversation with the person. Like, hey, you have any issues, you just call me. I'll make sure it's taken care of. And that happened.
And now what's next for you?
So commercial real estate is what we're focusing on right now, and then we'll continue to push 100% Dad and put up good content for dads, which is encouragement and wisdom towards the father.
And what do you plan to do with that platform with 100% Dad? Is that other than really pushing good content and being passionate about it?
I wish I had this massive grand scheme for it, but I'll continue to do what I did with all businesses: is try and provide as much value as possible, be good at the customer service end of it, and hope it pays dividends in the end. We'll continue to put out content. We're going to release a book here, I hope soon. I'll be doing it myself, so I don't know how long it actually takes to put out a real book. But yeah, we'll see. So come back at me in like 2-3 years. I'll let you know what the answer was, and then I'll pretend like I had all the answers ahead of time.
Okay.
And then you can play this back where you didn't have any answers.
You didn't know
You just do the best you can in the moment and see what paths lead you to, and make the best decisions at each moment.
Looking back, would you ever have changed being an entrepreneur? Did you ever think like it could have been easier just taking a job?
No.
Any regrets?
I don't know if I could have, honestly. I don't know if I could, because we went down to the Keys for 6 months and helped a private equity firm open up that resort, and now this is after I've had a successful exit, so I'm more confident in my
You're kind of like a hired gun at this point, helping out.
Yeah, and I'm like, when I see stupid, I call out stupid, and there's a lot of, in that type of business, which is like a $2 billion a year business, there's a lot of unnecessary levels of management there that really should not be there, and they're not competent and are not good, and there's a whole lot of BSing at the bottom level, and I'm just
seeing right through that.
and I called it out, and so I'm not a good fit for the corporate world. I don't think at this point in my life. I don't know if I would have been but I mean, I've retired at 33, so it's hard to sit there and say that was the wrong decision.
Yeah.
And I've gotten to enjoy my kids in the prime of their youth, and like be 100% focused on it. And it's hard to sit there and say that did it cost us financially? Sure. Yeah. If I had been like on my game over 2020, 21, 22. I mean, I think I was doing the math with Ryan the other day. We were just having a date night. I was like, we could have made like 20, 30 million bucks if I had done. Like in hindsight, if I had done things right, that's a lot of money. Not that I would have done that.
Yeah.
But
you never know. You never know.
There.
I mean, sometimes you just gotta take the chips off the table.
Yeah.
And I think it was the right move. Yeah. Did you leave money on the table? Potentially.
We definitely did. But I also don't mind it. I'm not upset at our decision at all, because as a father and as a husband, we had 1,000 straight days of just pure bliss and focus on the family. And now that could have gone a couple different ways, but we ended up a tighter family unit than I could have ever imagined.
Yeah, some people might spend 1,000 days in an RV and want to kill each other.
Yeah, and we talked about that before we left. We're like, hey, listen, if putting ourselves in a sardine can for 6 months is a bad idea, and we're just at each other's throats, and we'll call it quits.
Yeah.
And so we kind of assess things every once in a while. And at a year mark, we're like, let's keep going. At the 2-year mark, when we were supposed to be done, we were like, let's do another year. At the 3-year mark, they were like, no, let's keep going. I was like, no, like, Dad's got to go back to work.
Yeah.
Dad's got to start to focus on things, because, we can maybe do this like another 10 years, and then, you guys are out of the house, but Mom and Dad are sitting there on probably nothing anymore, and we're gonna have to start at age 50.
Trying to build some.
Trying to start from scratch.
Build retirement again.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, look, thanks so much for coming in. I think great to hear your insight and your story. And
sorry, I didn't grow a massive nationwide company that I could have lent a lot of insight into.
No, I think you gave great insight, because I think the reality is, a lot of the people that are our customers and people that we're trying to do business with are just like you. They're small businesses in the grand scheme of things. Not to put it down as a small business. It was a great success story, but you don't have to be on the cover of Forbes. You don't have to be Elon Musk. You don't have to be the richest man in the world to lead a successful life and to have a successful entrepreneurial journey. And it's a journey, and you've had a great one, and you're moving on to new chapters, contributing to society with 100% Dad. Great exit, moving on to doing the next great thing, RVing, and doing some commercial real estate and continuing the journey.